Stand at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and look up. White columns rise against the sky. Porticos frame perfect symmetry. The house glows in daylight, commanding its 18 acres like a temple on a hill. Beautiful, yes. But this house was never just a president's residence. Behind those famous walls lies infrastructure most Americans will never see. Service tunnels stretch beneath the grounds like arteries. Kitchens operate at industrial scale, a parallel world designed to remain out of sight. Staff have moved through these hidden corridors for over 2 centuries, ensuring that what the public sees is flawless, effortless, permanent. How did a mansion built by enslaved people become the symbol of American freedom? Who actually paid for the White House, not just at the beginning, but every single day for 233 years? The story you think you know is the facade. Here's what it really cost. July 16, 1790. President George Washington signs the Residence Act. The federal government will build a new capital on the Potomac River. Not Philadelphia. Not New York. Not establish cities with infrastructure, culture, prestige. A swamp. Land purchased from private landowners. Acres of marshland. Forests thick with mosquitoes. Humidity that makes breathing feel like drowning. This is the site chosen for the young republic's power center. The decision is political compromise. Northern states versus southern states. Alexander Hamilton's financial system traded for Thomas Jefferson's agrarian vision. The capital will rise in the south between Maryland and Virginia on land ceded to create a federal district. Washington himself selects the exact location for the president's house. March 1791. He walks the muddy terrain with Pierre-Charles L'Enfant, the French engineer hired to design the new capital. L'Enfant envisions a palace 5 times larger than what will actually be built, a residence worthy of European monarchs. Washington rejects it. The president understands symbolism. America has just fought a revolution against kings. The executive mansion cannot look like a throne room. It must project Republican virtue. Dignity without decadence, power restrained by democratic principle. But it must still be grand enough to command respect. In 1792, a design competition opens. 9 proposals submitted. Some ornate, some modest, all anonymous. The winner, James Hoban, 33 years old, Irish-born architect trained in Dublin, now practicing in Charleston, South Carolina. Hoban's design draws from Leinster House in Dublin, seat of the Irish Parliament, neoclassical symmetry, 3 stories, white-painted sandstone, restrained ornament. Not a palace, not a cottage, something between a gentleman's country house enlarged to symbolic scale. The commission offers Hoban a $500 payment and oversight of construction. He accepts. For the next 8 years, his life will be consumed by this project. Ground breaks in October 1792. The work begins. Stand at the construction site in October 1793 and the scale becomes clear. Not just a house. An industrial operation consuming materials, labor, and lives. The site itself presents immediate challenges. The ground is unstable, clay mixed with sand, saturated with groundwater from the nearby Potomac. Workers must excavate foundation trenches while fighting constant seepage. Pumps run continuously, powered by hand or horse, keeping trenches dry enough for stonework. The foundation goes deep. Stone footings 8 feet wide in places, designed to distribute the building's weight across unstable soil. The stone comes from the same Aquia Creek quarries that will supply the walls. Massive blocks, weighing 300 to 500 pounds each, transported by barge up the Potomac. Workers arrive from multiple sources, creating a complex labor hierarchy based on skill, race, and legal status. At the top, European master craftsmen, Scottish stonemasons command the highest wages, approximately $8 per month plus board, equivalent to roughly $200 today. These men bring skills learned through traditional apprenticeships. They can read architectural drawings, calculate angles, cut stone with precision. Colin Williamson arrives from Edinburgh in 1793. Age 42, master mason with 25 years' experience building Edinburgh's new town. Hoban hires him to oversee stonework. Williamson brings traditional techniques: how to dress stone so blocks fit tightly without excessive mortar, how to calculate load distribution, how to identify stone flaws that will cause future cracking. Williamson supervises a team of approximately 30 stonemasons. Some are Scottish, like him. Others are Irish, German, English, European immigrants seeking opportunity in the new republic. They earn varying wages based on skill level: $6 to $8 per month for experienced masons, $4 to $5 for apprentices still learning. Below the European craftsmen in the labor hierarchy, free black workers, men who were born free or purchased their freedom. They work as general laborers, hod carriers, lime burners. The wages? Approximately $3 to $4 per month, half what white workers with similar skills receive. And at the bottom, enslaved workers. Men owned by plantation owners in Maryland and Virginia, hired out to the federal government. The government pays the owner $60 per year per worker, approximately $5 per month. The enslaved men themselves receive nothing: food and basic shelter provided, but no wages, no freedom, no choice. The names survive in fragmentary records. Payroll ledgers kept by construction commissioners list some individuals: Len, hired from Daniel Carroll; Jerry, hired from Notley Young; Peter, hired from Thomas Beale; Ben, hired from another plantation. Tom and Daniel appear in other records, their owners unspecified. These men quarry stone, fire bricks, dig foundations, haul materials. The hardest, most dangerous work: no safety equipment, no medical care beyond basic first aid. If seriously injured, they are sent back to their owner, a financial loss to the owner, not a human tragedy in the accounting. The work is grueling. Summer heat in Washington, D.C. reaches over 95 degrees with suffocating humidity. Winters bring freezing temperatures, making mortar work impossible. The construction follows seasonal rhythms: heavy work spring through fall, minimal work in winter when masonry ceases. 40 miles south of Washington, the Aquia Creek quarries operate continuously to supply stone. This sandstone, called Aquia freestone, is the primary building material. Soft enough to carve, hard enough to last, or so builders believe in 1793. The quarrying process. Workers drill holes in the rock face using iron chisels and hammers. The holes are packed with wooden wedges. Water is poured over the wedges, making them swell. The expansion pressure cracks the stone along intended lines. Large blocks are pried free, then shaped roughly using broad chisels. Each block is marked with symbols indicating destination and placement. The marking system allows workers at the construction site to identify which stone goes where without constant reference to drawings. The blocks travel by barge, flat-bottom boats capable of navigating the Potomac's variable depths. Each barge carries 5 to 10 tons of stone. The journey takes 2 to 3 days depending on wind and current. The boats dock at a temporary wharf, built specifically for White House construction. From wharf to construction site, wagons pulled by oxen or horses. The wagons must navigate rough roads, often muddy. A loaded wagon carrying half a ton of stone can get stuck, requiring additional animals or manual labor to extract it. At the construction site, stone is offloaded using simple machines: ramps, rollers, pulleys, and human muscle. A stone weighing 400 pounds requires 4 to 6 men to position it safely. Injuries happen regularly: crushed fingers, strained backs, foot injuries from dropped stones. The stonework proceeds slowly. Master masons like Williamson must ensure each stone is positioned precisely. Too much mortar between stones looks sloppy and weakens the wall. Too little mortar leaves gaps where water penetrates, causing freeze-thaw damage in winter. The walls rise inches per day. By 1794, after a full year, The walls reach only first-floor height. The work cannot be rushed. Stone masonry is patient craft. While stonework proceeds, other materials arrive from parallel supply chains, bricks produced on site. Brick kilns constructed near the building consume clay dug from the site itself. The clay is mixed with water, formed in wooden molds, dried in the sun, then fired in kilns heated by wood or coal. A kiln firing produces approximately 10,000 bricks and takes several days. The process is unpredictable. Temperature control is rough. Some bricks overfire and become brittle, others underfire and remain weak. Perhaps 70% of each firing produces usable bricks. The brick makers, skilled craftsmen, some free black, some enslaved, some European immigrants. The work is hot, dangerous. Kilns reach temperatures over 2,000 degree hours. Workers loading and unloading kilns risk burns. The dust from handling dry clay causes respiratory problems. Potter's rot, a type of silicosis that slowly destroys lungs. Lime mortar, the glue holding stone and brick together. Lime is produced by heating limestone in kilns until it converts to quicklime. The quicklime is then mixed with sand and water to create workable mortar. The lime kilns operate continuously. Workers, mostly enslaved and free black laborers, shovel limestone into kilns, tend fires, extract quicklime. The lime dust is caustic, burning skin on contact, damaging eyes and lungs. Workers have no protective equipment. Extended exposure causes chronic health problems. Lumber arrives from multiple sources. Local forests provide common timber for framing and scaffolding. Quality hardwoods, mahogany, walnut, oak, imported from the West Indies, South America, Europe. The finest woods reserved for interior paneling and decorative elements in state rooms. Sawmills process logs into dimensional lumber. The work is dangerous. Powered sawmills use water wheels or horse-powered mechanisms to drive large blade saws. Workers guide logs through the blades. Kickback can throw logs violently. Fingers and hands get caught in machinery. Saw blades break occasionally, sending metal fragments flying. Construction records from 1792-1800 are incomplete regarding injuries and deaths. No requirement existed to document such incidents. Workers' lives were not considered historically significant, but fragmentary evidence suggests the toll was substantial. A letter from Commissioner Daniel Carroll mentions several workers injured in falls and accidents without providing specifics. Payroll records show workers disappearing from lists. Either they left for other employment, or they died, or they became too injured to continue. One documented death, a free black laborer, name unrecorded, dies in 1794 when a stone block being hoisted by pulley breaks free and crushes him. He is buried at public expense in a cemetery that no longer exists. No family found, or no family able to claim the body. Another injury, an Irish carpenter, James Whitfield, 51, trained in Edinburgh, arrives in 1793. Records show him on payrolls through 1795, then he disappears. A notation suggests injury prevented further work. What happened? Fall from scaffolding? Saw accident? The record is silent. For enslaved workers, the documentation is even scarcer. They appear as first names only in payroll ledgers showing payments to owners. When they are injured or die, the financial loss falls on the owner, who might seek compensation from the Construction Commission. But the human dimension, the suffering, the loss to families, the truncated lives, this goes unrecorded. The work proceeds despite casualties. The national imperative to complete the President's house overrides individual safety. Workers are replaceable. The building must rise. By 1796, the walls reach full height. The roof structure begins. Massive timber beams hoisted into place. This is particularly dangerous work. Beams weighing 500 to 800 pounds must be positioned precisely while workers balance on scaffolding 40 feet above ground. As the exterior shell nears completion, interior work begins. This requires different skills: plasterers, carpenters, painters, glaziers. The plastering trade, multiple coats applied to walls and ceilings. The first coat, called render coat or scratch coat, is rough, providing mechanical key for subsequent coats. The second coat, brown coat, builds thickness and level surfaces. The finish coat, skim coat, creates smooth paintable surface. Decorative plasterwork requires specialized artisans, cornices, ceiling medallions, ornamental details. These are either cast in molds or hand-formed on-site. Italian plasterers, trained in classical techniques, create elaborate designs in staterooms. The carpenter trade, framing floors, constructing staircases, installing doors and windows, creating wood paneling. Mahogany paneling in the state dining room requires precision fitting. Each board must be cut, planned, fitted, secured with minimal visible joinery. Irish and Scottish carpenters dominate this work. Men trained through traditional apprenticeships, able to read architectural drawings, calculate measurements, execute complex joinery. They earn good wages, $60 per month, but work long hours in all weather conditions. The painting trade, multiple coats on every surface, primers, undercoats, finish coats. The exterior sandstone is painted white, multiple coats of lime-based whitewash. The name White House emerges from this painted appearance, though the name won't become official until Theodore Roosevelt's presidency. Interior rooms receive various paint colors and wallpaper. The finest rooms get hand-painted decorative elements or expensive imported wallpaper. This work requires patience and skill. Any imperfection is visible. The initial plan called for completion by 1797. This timeline proves impossible. The work proceeds slower than anticipated. Weather delays construction frequently. Funding arrives inconsistently from Congress. Appropriations are approved. Then money takes months to reach commissioners' accounts. Material deliveries face delays. By 1798, the house remains unfinished. The exterior is complete, painted white, looking substantial, but the interior lacks completion. Many rooms have plaster walls but no decorative elements, fireplaces installed but chimneys not properly flued, floors laid but not finished. President John Adams plans to move in November 1800 before his term ends. The work accelerates. Final push to make the house marginally habitable, October 1800. Workers labor around the clock. Plasterers finish walls. Painters apply final coats. Carpenters install remaining doors. The house will not be truly complete, but it will be occupiable. November 1st, 1800. Adams moves in. His wife Abigail arrives 2 weeks later. Her letters describe conditions. Not one room or chamber is finished. We have not the least fence, yard, or other convenience without. And the great unfinished audience room, the East Room, I make a drying room of, to hang up the clothes in. The house is grand in conception, miserable in reality. Fires smoke, because chimneys draw improperly. Plaster still drying causes dampness throughout. No functioning bells to summon servants. Scaffolding still stands in some rooms, but it stands. Visible across the muddy federal city, a symbol of the new government, even if that symbol is half-finished, damp, and uncomfortable. By 1800, construction expenditures exceed $200,000, more than twice the initial estimate. In today's dollars, adjusting for both inflation and purchasing power differences, this represents approximately $50 million. This amount purchased, a building approximately 170 feet wide, 85 feet deep, 3 stories, including basement, approximately 36 rooms completed or partially completed, exterior walls of aquea sandstone, painted white, timber-framed floors and roof structure, basic interior plasterwork, some decorative elements in staterooms, 28 fireplaces, no functioning plumbing beyond basic wells and outdoor privies, no gas lighting, not yet invented. The human cost is harder to quantify but certainly included. At least one documented death, multiple injuries serious enough to end workers' careers, Thousands of man-years of enslaved labor, uncompensated. This is the foundation of the White House, a building created through mixture of skilled craft, industrial process, free labor, and enslaved labor. Beautiful exterior concealing harsh realities of its creation. The house John Adams occupies in November 1800 is incomplete and will remain so for years, but it stands. And that symbolic fact matters more than physical comfort or functional completion. The first chapter of the White House story establishes patterns that will persist: the tension between symbol and function, the gap between public facade and private reality, the hidden labor supporting visible grandeur, the perpetual struggle to maintain something that costs more than budgeted. 200 years of history will follow, but everything begins here, in these first 8 years, when enslaved and free workers transformed a Virginia swamp into the most famous address in America. The White House in 1800 is not what tourists see today, smaller. Surrounded by construction debris, workers' sheds, mud, Pennsylvania Avenue remains unpaved. Visitors arrive on horseback through forests. The house contains approximately 36 rooms. The main floor holds ceremonial spaces, the East Room for large gatherings, the Blue Room for formal receptions, the State Dining Room for official dinners. The second floor provides private quarters for the president's family. The third floor, under a low roof, houses servants. Infrastructure in 1800, primitive by modern standards. No electricity, that won't arrive until 1891. No indoor plumbing, installed gradually beginning in the 1830s. No central heating, fireplaces in every room, 28 in total. Water hauled from nearby springs and barrels. The basement becomes the service center, kitchen, laundry, storage. Staff quarters located in the main house or nearby outbuildings. The workforce, approximately 12 to 20 servants, mix of free and enslaved depending on the president's preference and home state. Thomas Jefferson moves in March 1801. He finds the house too formal, too European. He opens it to public receptions, welcoming citizens who track mud across carpets. He adds water closets, early toilets connected to a cesspool system. He plants gardens, converts rooms to his personal use. The house becomes a workplace, not just a residence. Offices occupy the second floor. Cabinet meetings held in the president's study. Visitors wander the first floor freely during business hours. No security checkpoints, no tourists' ropes, no Secret Service. James and Dolly Madison inherit the house in 1809. Dolly transforms it into a social center, hosting elaborate receptions called drawing rooms every Wednesday evening. The house finally feels inhabited, alive. Then comes 1814, August 24th. British troops march into Washington during the War of 1812. The government flees. The city lies defenseless. British Admiral George Cockburn enters the White House. He finds dinner prepared in the state dining room. The Madisons had fled hours earlier. The British officers sit down, eat the president's meal, drink his wine. Then they set fire to the house. Soldiers pile furniture in the center of rooms, ignite it. Flame spreads through the interior. The sandstone walls withstand fire. Stone does not burn, but the interior collapses. Timber beams, wooden floors, mahogany paneling, all consumed. By morning, the house stands as a hollow shell. Walls intact, roof gone, windows empty, interior gutted. A rainstorm that night prevents total destruction. The walls survive. The house will rise again. James Hoban returns. Now age 56, the original architect is hired again to oversee reconstruction. He knows every stone, every joint. The restoration will take 3 years. Congress appropriates $500,000 for rebuilding, equivalent to roughly $10 million today. The work proceeds faster than original construction. The shell exists, foundation sound. Workers focus on interior reconstruction. The workforce again includes enslaved labor. The practice continues despite growing moral opposition in northern states. Records show payments to slaveholders for Negro hire. The names are listed: Peter, Ben, Daniel. Different men with the same names as earlier workers, or perhaps the same individuals, aging now still bound to this project. The rebuilt house reopens October 1817 when James Monroe moves in. Larger now. The South Portico added in 1824, North Portico in 1829, giving the house its familiar colonnade appearance. These additions, designed by Benjamin Henry Latrobe and later Hoban, transform the building's public face, but stand behind the facade and the pressures multiply. By the 1830s, the White House operates as a complex machine. The staff has grown to approximately 30 people: stewards, cooks, doorkeepers, maids, stablemen, some free, some enslaved, until 1862 when slavery ends in Washington, D.C. The kitchen, located in the basement, becomes an industrial operation. Cast iron stoves replace open hearths, meat roasted for state dinners that can serve 100 guests, ice shipped from northern lakes, stored in ice houses. Food storage without refrigeration requires daily market trips. Water remains a problem. Early wells prove inadequate. In 1833, a system is installed pumping water from a spring to a reservoir tank on the roof. Gravity feeds water through lead pipes. Technology advanced for its time, poisonous by modern understanding. The house costs more every year to maintain. Annual operating budgets vary by president, but by the 1850s, Congress appropriates approximately $50,000 yearly for White House operations, equivalent to over $1.5 million today. This covers staff salaries, food, fuel, maintenance, entertaining. The math is simple and harsh. The White House exists in constant tension between symbolic duty and operational cost. It must project national prestige while consuming resources that could build schools, roads, military ships. Every president confronts this tension. Some, like Andrew Jackson, open the house to rowdy public receptions where crowds destroy furnishings. Others, like Franklin Pierce, preside over formal European-style court ceremonies. The house adapts to each occupant while remaining structurally the same. And beneath every elegant reception, beneath every state dinner, the infrastructure strains. Step past the staterooms, and the other face appears. Behind the beauty lies infrastructure. By 1850, the White House basement resembles a factory. The kitchen occupies the central space: massive stoves, preparation tables, storage rooms, a separate pastry kitchen, sculleries for washing dishes, storage rooms for coal, wood, food staples. The heating system: 28 fireplaces requiring constant stoking. Rooms distant from fireplaces remain cold. The house is drafty, poorly insulated. Staff carry firewood up narrow service stairs, remove ashes before dawn, so fires are lit before the family wakes. In 1853, President Franklin Pierce installs a central heating system. A furnace in the basement feeds hot air through ducts. Revolutionary for its time. The furnace devours coal, tons of it weekly. Someone must shovel coal, remove ash, maintain the system. This work happens out of sight. Gas lighting arrives in 1848. Pipes run through walls, feeding brass fixtures in major rooms. The gas is manufactured on site in a small plant on the SEC grounds. The process produces toxic fumes, occasional explosions. In 1857, a gas leak causes a small explosion in the basement. No one killed, but the danger is constant. The staff, by 1860, approximately 40 people. Their roles specialized. Doorkeeper controls access, steward manages supplies, head cook oversees meals, maids clean rooms, laundresses handle linens, stablemen care for horses and carriages. Wages vary by position and race. The steward earns approximately $1,200 annually, $35,000 in modern equivalent. Maids earn $200–400 yearly, $6,000– $12,000 today. Black servants, whether enslaved or free, are paid less than white servants for identical work. Some servants live in the White House, small rooms on the third floor under sloped ceilings, cramped, hot in summer, cold in winter. Others live nearby and commute daily. No set schedules. Staff work from dawn until the family retires. often 14, 16-hour days. The hidden circulation, service stairs connect basement to upper floors. Narrow, unadorned, designed to remain unseen. Staff use these passages to move through the house without disturbing family or guests. A parallel world designed to remain invisible. The same system exists in every grand house of this era, but this house belongs to the nation. The staff serve not a private family, but the American presidency. Every meal prepared, every floor scrubbed, every fire stoked is national service. Who thanks them? History records presidential names, major events, famous guests. The servants appear in photographs occasionally, unnamed figures in the background. Until the Lincoln years, when the house becomes something else entirely. April 1861. Confederate forces fire on Fort Sumter. Civil War begins. The White House transforms overnight from ceremonial residence to military nerve center. Abraham Lincoln moves in March 1861 with his wife Mary, sons Robert, Willie, and Tad. The house he inherits is shabby, furnishings worn. Mary Lincoln undertakes renovations, spending congressional appropriations freely, eventually exceeding the budget. A scandal during wartime. But decoration matters less than function now. The house becomes operational headquarters. The second floor holds the president's office where Lincoln meets generals, reviews battle plans, signs orders. Telegrams arrive constantly from War Department offices nearby. The mansion pulses with urgent activity. The grounds transform. Army camps surround the property. Soldiers guard entrances. The basement becomes overflow office space. The East Room, designed for elegant receptions, sometimes holds wounded soldiers, an impromptu hospital. The staff faces new pressures, more mouths to feed, guards, clerks, visitors, longer hours, heightened security. Free black servants now work alongside white staff with formal wages. The last enslaved workers in the White House had been freed in 1862 when Washington, D.C. abolished slavery. Elizabeth Keckley, formerly enslaved, becomes Mary Lincoln's dressmaker and confidant. William Slade, black messenger and valet. Cornelia Mitchell, cook. Their names survive because their service intersected with Lincoln's story. February 1862. Willie Lincoln, age 11, dies from typhoid fever, likely contracted from contaminated water in the White House water system. The house that symbolizes American power cannot protect a child from bacterial infection in its own plumbing. Mary Lincoln never recovers emotionally. She rarely enters the room where Willie died. The house becomes haunted for her, not by ghosts, but by grief. April 14, 1865. Lincoln is shot at Ford's Theater. He dies the next morning in a boarding house across the street. His body returns to the White House. For days, the house becomes national funeral parlor. Thousands file through the East Room where the coffin lies in state. The house has witnessed triumph and tragedy, but nothing like this. Andrew Johnson assumes presidency. Then Ulysses S. Grant in 1869. The house settles into post-war normalcy. But beneath the surface, structural problems accumulate. By 1870, the White House suffers from 70 years of use and minimal maintenance. Floors sag, walls crack. The heating system barely functions, plumbing leaks. The building shows its age. Congress appropriates funds for renovations periodically, but never enough for comprehensive restoration. Instead, a patchwork of repairs and additions. The South grounds develop gradually. Greenhouses constructed in the 1850s, expanded through the 1870s. These glass structures, heated by steam boilers, allow the White House to grow flowers year-round for decoration. The greenhouse operation employs several full-time gardeners. In 1877, President Rutherford B. Hayes installs the first telephone, a device demonstrated by Alexander Graham Bell. The single phone connects to the Treasury Department. Technology enters the house in increments. Electricity arrives in 1891 under President Benjamin Harrison. Workmen install wiring, fixtures, switches. The family refuses to touch the switches, afraid of electric shock, so staff turn lights on and off. This fear is not irrational. Early electrical systems cause fires. The wiring, snaked through walls built without electrical considerations, creates lasting maintenance problems. The house also becomes increasingly crowded. Presidential staff expands. More clerks, more secretaries, more visitors. The second floor, originally private quarters, now mixes family bedrooms with offices. The president cannot escape work. It surrounds his living space. First ladies begin advocating for separation. Caroline Harrison, wife of Benjamin Harrison, proposes major expansions in 1891, new wings for offices and residential space. Congress considers but rejects the plan as too expensive. The House stands at a crossroads. Should it remain a combined residence and office, or should the functions separate? By 1900, the question becomes urgent, not due to policy debates, but structural failure. Theodore Roosevelt moves in September 1901 after McKinley's assassination. He arrives with wife Edith and 6 children, the largest presidential family to ever occupy the House. The building cannot accommodate them. Not enough bedrooms, no privacy, children running through office corridors, visitors touring the first floor during business hours, gawking at the president's family. Worse, the House is dangerous. Structural surveys reveal alarming conditions. The wooden beams supporting the state floor have rotted. The floor sags noticeably. Guests at receptions notice the dip. Engineers warn that the second floor might collapse under the weight of a large gathering. The heating system leaks gas. The electrical wiring, only 10 years old, already shows signs of fire danger. Plumbing barely functions. The building, constructed in 1800, rebuilt in 1817, patched continuously, has reached the end of its structural integrity. The choice? Demolish the White House and build new, or completely gut and rebuild. Public outcry prevents demolition. The House has become too symbolically important. It represents continuity, national identity, presidential heritage. Americans romanticize the House. Lincoln slept here. Jefferson wrote here. Washington selected this site. Roosevelt agrees to comprehensive renovation. Not cosmetic, structural. Congress appropriates $475,000, equivalent to roughly $13 million today. The work begins June 1902. The architect Charles Follen McKim of the famous firm McKim, Mead and White, takes charge. His reputation includes Pennsylvania Station, the Morgan Library, Columbia University campus. The Roosevelt family moves out to a nearby residence. Workers gut the interior completely. What remains? Exterior walls and the structural iron supports installed during earlier renovations. The workforce. Approximately 500 workers at peak. Electricians, plumbers, carpenters, plasterers, painters. The job is surgery on a national symbol. Everything must be documented, preserved where possible, rebuilt exactly where not. The basement is excavated deeper, creating more space for modern mechanical systems. New steel structural supports replace wooden beams. Modern plumbing with extensive bathrooms. Electrical systems redesigned from scratch. Central heating upgraded to a more efficient system. Most significantly, the West Wing is constructed, a separate building connected to the main house, providing office space for presidential staff. This finally separates the residence from the workplace. The renovation finishes in November 1902. The family moves back. The house looks similar on the outside, deliberate preservation of the familiar facade. Inside, completely modern, structurally sound, capable of lasting another century. The cost was not just financial. Records are scarce, but workers' compensation claims from this era mention injuries, falls, crushed hands, back injuries. One worker, Michael Donahue, 34, dies when scaffolding collapses in July 1902. He leaves a wife and 3 children. The family receives no federal compensation, standard practice at the time. The house stands renewed, but the pattern is established. Periodic crisis, expensive renovation, temporary reprieve. The cycle will repeat. The Roosevelt renovation solves immediate problems, but creates a precedent. The White House will require constant, expensive maintenance. Between 1902 and 1948, the House undergoes continuous small modifications. New technologies demand integration. Telephone lines multiply, refrigeration units installed, air conditioning attempted, first in 1909, inadequate until 1950s, radio equipment, eventually television. The staff grows steadily. By 1929, approximately 60 full-time employees work in the White House residence, separate from West Wing staff. Chief usher coordinates operations. Housekeeper supervises maids. Chef commands kitchen staff. Butlers, doorkeepers, maintenance workers, each role specialized. The cost escalates correspondingly. Annual operating budgets by the 1930s approach $200,000 yearly, equivalent to roughly $4 million today. This covers salaries, utilities, food, maintenance, entertainment expenses. The house operates like a luxury hotel, but with higher standards. When foreign dignitaries visit, every detail must be perfect. State dinners for 100+ guests require planning, coordination, flawless execution. The pressure falls on staff working below minimum wage by modern standards. The Great Depression creates tension. While Americans stand in bread lines, the White House serves elaborate dinners. Franklin Roosevelt understands the optics. He instructs staff to serve simpler meals, reduce waste. But the House cannot stop functioning. It must maintain symbolic dignity even during economic collapse. World War II brings new challenges. Security tightens. Windows blacked out for air raid precautions. Additional Secret Service agents stationed throughout the grounds. The House again becomes military nerve center. Roosevelt makes crucial decisions in his second-floor study overlooking the South Lawn. By 1945, the House shows strain again. Not catastrophic like 1902, but worrying. Floors sag, walls crack. The 1902 steel supports have corroded. The building needs another major renovation. President Harry Truman confronts this reality in 1948. Engineers deliver a devastating report. The house is structurally unsafe. The second floor could collapse at any moment. The building must be gutted again, more extensively than 1902. Another crisis, another expensive rescue. November 7, 1948, workers erect temporary steel scaffolding around the White House. External supports will hold the stone walls upright while everything inside is demolished. The house becomes a facade supported by an external skeleton, a reversal of natural architecture. The Truman family watches from Blair House across Pennsylvania Avenue. From their windows, they can see the construction site that was their home. They will live in Blair House for the next 369 days, the longest presidential exile from the White House in American history. The decision to gut the house completely came after engineers delivered their report in February 1948. Lorenzo Winslow, official White House architect, supervised the investigation. His team drilled test holes, measured stresses, analyzed structural integrity. The findings? Catastrophic. The timber beams installed in 1817 after the fire had rotted from the inside. The steel framework added in 1902 had corroded from decades of humidity and inadequate ventilation. The second floor sagged 3 inches in the center. The floors could collapse at any moment under the weight of a large gathering. Truman faced the choice: demolish or preserve. Public sentiment demanded preservation. The American people had mythologized the house. To destroy it would destroy something beyond architecture. Congress appropriates $5.4 million initially. The final cost will reach $5.7 million, equivalent to roughly $65 million today. But this number tells only part of the story. The true cost is measured in labor, risk, and transformation. The workforce assembles from construction companies nationwide. John McShane, Inc. wins the general contract. McShane had built the Pentagon and numerous government projects. The Philadelphia-based company brings rigorous organization to what could easily become chaos. At peak, approximately 800 workers occupy the site. Carpenters, electricians, steelworkers, masons, plasters, painters, specialized trades each with specific responsibilities, union labor, paid prevailing wages, better conditions than the enslaved workers who built the original house, but still dangerous. The work proceeds in phases. First, complete documentation. Every room photographed from multiple angles. Every architectural detail measured, cataloged, numbered. Decorative plasterwork molded in rubber to create casting patterns. Wood paneling labeled with chalk marks indicating origin and orientation. This documentation is essential. The house must be reconstructed to look identical after gutting. The American public expects continuity, not innovation. December 1948. Demolition begins inside. Workers remove furniture, fixtures, everything movable. Then the walls. Plaster comes down in clouds of white dust. Lath strips torn away, revealing the structure beneath. The East Room, where Lincoln's body lay in state, where Nixon announced his resignation, where countless historic moments occurred, dismantled piece by piece. The wooden floors pried up. The plaster ceiling lowered carefully. The crystal chandeliers disconnected and removed. Room by room, the house empties. The blue room, red room, green room, state dining room, all reduced to bare structural bones. Then those bones removed as well. By February 1949, the interior is gone. Stand inside the stone shell and you can see straight through from basement to roof. The house is a hollow box, 4 walls, and nothing between them. Tourists stop on Pennsylvania Avenue staring. The temporary steel supports make the house look like a construction site, which it is. Some Americans find this disturbing. The symbol of national permanence revealed as fragile, temporary, dependent on constant maintenance. The excavation goes down. Workers dig beneath the existing basement, removing tons of earth. The plan calls for 2 sub-basement levels below the original basement, creating a 3-story depth of underground space. The digging reveals surprises. Fragments of the original 1792 foundation. Hand-laid stone from the first construction. Sections of the 1817 rebuilding after the British burned the house. Archaeological layers of presidential history. Workers also discover structural problems worse than anticipated. The original foundation stones have settled unevenly. The ground beneath, the Potomac River clay and sand, has compacted under 150 years of weight. Some sections have sunk 2 feet lower than others, creating stress fractures throughout the structure. Groundwater is another issue. The site was swamp before development. Springs still flow beneath the foundation. Workers install pumps running continuously to keep the excavation dry. The pumps will remain after construction finishes. Permanent systems managing water that wants to reclaim this land. The new foundation goes deeper, wider. Concrete poured in massive quantities. Steel reinforcement bars create a grid that will support not just the house, but the new internal steel skeleton. This foundation will carry loads the original builders never imagined. The weight of modern mechanical systems, the mass of structural steel, the requirements of 20th century engineering. March 1949. The foundation work continues. Workers labor in the pit beneath the White House shell. The space is cramped, dark, damp. Lighting is temporary. Strings of bare bulbs. Ventilation inadequate. Diesel exhaust from equipment mixes with concrete dust. James Morrison, 33, iron worker from Baltimore, positions reinforcement bars in the foundation pour. He has worked construction for 12 years, has a wife, 2 daughters, earns union wages, approximately $2.50 per hour, $50 for a 20-hour week, decent money for 1949. Morrison does not think of himself as building national symbol. He is pouring foundation, same as any job. But his work will support the White House for the next century. His name will appear nowhere in official histories, but his labor becomes literally foundational. May 1949. The foundation complete, steel erection begins. The structural engineer, Spencer, White, and Prentice, designed the internal skeleton, Every beam, every column, every joint calculated to support specific loads. The steel arrives from Pittsburgh mills, beams marked with piece numbers corresponding to engineering drawings. Like a massive erector set, each piece has its designated place. Cranes lift steel members into position. Iron workers, working from temporary scaffolding inside the shell, guide beams into place. Connection crews follow, bolting or riveting joints. The work is dangerous. Men working 40 feet above the ground with minimal safety equipment. Robert Costello, 28 connector crew foreman, supervises the team bolting joints. He walks steel beams 2 feet wide, 30 feet up, without harnesses or safety lines. This is standard practice in 1949. Falls happen regularly in construction. Some men die. OSHA won't exist for another 22 years. The skeleton rises floor by floor, ground level to first floor to second floor to third floor. By June, the internal structure takes shape, a complete steel building inside the stone shell. This steel framework will support everything: floors, walls, ceilings, mechanical systems, people, furniture. The house becomes fundamentally modern despite its 1800 appearance. The work proceeds through summer 1949. Washington heat in July and August makes the construction site brutal. Inside the stone shell, temperatures exceed 100 degrees. No air conditioning, that will be installed later. Workers drink water constantly, take breaks, push through. August 17, 1949. A steel worker, name unrecorded in public documents, suffers heat stroke, collapses on the second floor framing. Co-workers carry him down. Ambulance takes him to hospital. He survives but cannot return to work for weeks. No paid sick leave. His family manages without his income. These stories rarely appear in official histories, but construction always has human cost, injuries, illness, financial stress. The White House is no exception. While steel workers frame the structure, mechanical contractors install systems. This renovation provides opportunity to completely modernize the house, not just repair, transformation. The heating and cooling system, a massive central plant installed in the new sub-basement, boilers for winter heat, refrigeration units for summer cooling. Ductwork snakes through every wall, every ceiling, distributing conditioned air to every room. This represents technological advancement. The original White House had fireplaces. The 1853 renovation added furnace heat. Now true climate control, maintaining consistent temperature regardless of season. The electrical system, complete rewiring from scratch. Modern standards require more circuits, more capacity than 1891 wiring provided. The house will have power for lights, appliances, communication systems, security equipment. Electricians run cable through the steel structure, inside the walls, under floors. Thousands of feet of wire, junction boxes, circuit panels. The work is tedious, exacting. Every connection must be perfect. Fire risk is real. Faulty wiring causes house fires regularly in this era. The plumbing, upgraded to modern standards with extensive bathrooms on every floor. The 1800 White House had no indoor plumbing. The 1830s added some water closets. The 1902 renovation improved systems. Now, comprehensive plumbing, hot and cold running water in every bathroom, service areas, kitchens. New sewage lines connect to city systems. Water supply lines from city mains. Backup systems in case of failure. The house must function during crises. Water cannot fail when the president needs it. Fire suppression systems. Sprinklers throughout. Connected to dedicated water tanks on the roof. Fire alarm systems with heat detectors, smoke detectors, manual pull stations. After the 1814 fire and various close calls, fire protection becomes priority. Communication systems, telephone lines to every office, every major room. Intercom systems for staff communication. Dedicated lines for military and government communication. The house becomes telecommunications hub. All this infrastructure occupies space. Mechanical rooms in the sub-basement's house equipment. Utility chases run vertically through the building carrying pipes, wires, ducts. Service corridors allow access for maintenance. The infrastructure represents the hidden city beneath every grand house. What tourists see, elegant rooms, beautiful decoration, rests on foundation of machinery, systems, technology. The White House, like every mansion in the Grand Manors series, is not just architecture, but machine. July 1950. The steel structure complete, the mechanical systems installed. Now begins the work of restoration, making the new interior look historically authentic. Plasterers apply successive coats to walls and ceilings. The base coat, the brown coat, the finish coat. Each layer must dry before the next. The work cannot be rushed. Plaster cracks if applied too quickly. Decorative plaster work recreated from the rubber molds made during documentation. Craftsmen cast cornices, medallions, ornamental details. These pieces are installed, blending seamlessly with plain walls. The historic rooms, East Room, Blue Room, Red Room, Green Room, State Dining Room, receive special attention. These spaces must look exactly as they did before renovation. Any change would trigger public outcry, but everything is replica. The original plaster walls, demolished. The original wood floors, removed. The original decorative elements, stored in warehouses, too fragile to reinstall. What tourists will see is reconstruction, new materials, new construction, arranged to look old. The White House becomes a stage set, carefully designed illusion of historical continuity. Carpenters install wood paneling in rooms that had it previously. The wood is new, but milled to match old profiles, stained and finished to appear aged, installed using modern techniques, but looking traditional. Painters work for months, multiple coats on every surface, colors matched to historical records. The work is painstaking, every imperfection visible in harsh light. Flooring contractors lay new floors. Some rooms get oak parquet, others get stone. Materials, selected for durability and appearance. The floors must support heavy traffic, state dinners, receptions, thousands of tourists eventually. March 15, 1950. John Rask, 41, carpenter from Philadelphia, works on third-floor framing. The scaffolding shifts. He falls 15 feet, landing on his back on a concrete floor. Co-workers rush to help. Rask cannot move his legs. Ambulance takes him to hospital. Diagnosis: compressed vertebrae, permanent spinal damage. He will walk again eventually. With pain, but cannot continue construction work. Workers' compensation pays medical bills and partial wage replacement. But Rask's career is over. At 41, with a wife and 3 children, he must find new employment. Office work, perhaps, if his back tolerates sitting, or disability pension, barely enough to survive. His name appears in workers' compensation records. It does not appear in White House histories or presidential memoirs. His sacrifice, his health, his career, is footnote in archives, June 1950. A mechanical contractor's employee, name unrecorded, loses 3 fingers to a saw blade in the sub-basement workshop. The saw kicks back unexpectedly. His right hand enters the blade before he can react. Emergency treatment saves his hand, but not the fingers. He receives workers' compensation for permanent partial disability. The money helps, but he has lost dexterity. Fine work becomes impossible. His earning potential permanently reduced. August 1950. Heat-related illnesses increase. Multiple workers treated for heat exhaustion during summer months. The work cannot stop for weather. Deadlines pressure contractors. Workers push through dangerous conditions because they need the pay. These incidents are typical for major construction projects in this era. Worker safety is improving slowly. Unions push for better conditions. Insurance companies demand safety measures to reduce claims, but construction remains dangerous. The White House renovation likely caused additional injuries not documented in public records, minor injuries that didn't require medical treatment, respiratory problems from dust exposure that manifest years later, chronic back pain from repetitive lifting. These costs never appear in budget lines. The true cost of the Truman renovation, $5.7 million in contracts and materials, immeasurable in human health, safety, and sacrifice. The work finishes late March 1952. Inspectors approve the building. The Truman family prepares to return, March 27, 1952. The Trumans walk from Blair House to the White House, a symbolic walk, less than 200 yards, but representing 4 years of exile. Truman enters and tours the house. From the outside, nothing looks different. Same white walls, same porticos, same windows. But inside, completely transformed. The rooms look historically accurate. The East Room appears as it did before renovation, but Truman knows every surface is new. The walls, the floors, the ceilings, all reconstructed. He walks to the second floor, to the presidential bedroom. This room where Lincoln worked, where Wilson recovered from stroke, where Roosevelt died. This room is new. The space occupies the same location, but nothing physical remains from those earlier eras. The house is a paradox, ancient symbol, modern structure. The preservation is illusion, carefully maintained to serve national mythology. Truman understands this. He approved the project knowing it would transform the house fundamentally, but he also understood necessity. The house had to be saved. If that required destroying and rebuilding, so be it. The bill arrives, $5.7 million. Congress pays. Some members grumble about cost, but none seriously oppose. The White House is too symbolically important to abandon. What that money purchased: structural stability for decades, modern systems capable of supporting presidential operations, a house that looks historic while functioning as modern facility. What it cost, beyond money: worker health and safety. Architectural authenticity: the house is replica, not original. Historical continuity: most physical links to earlier eras severed. But the house stands. That is what matters to most Americans. The White House survives because people chose to pay the price, financial and otherwise. The Truman renovation established precedent. The White House can be completely rebuilt while maintaining symbolic continuity. Physical authenticity matters less than perceived authenticity. This lesson applies beyond architecture. Institutions survive through adaptation. The White House endures because each generation rebuilds it to serve contemporary needs while honoring past symbolism. The renovation also revealed the house's fundamental nature, machine disguised as monument. Beautiful rooms rest on foundation of mechanical systems, structural engineering, hidden infrastructure. The workers who rebuilt the house returned to ordinary lives. John Rask recovered partially, found work he could manage. Robert Costello continued ironwork, eventually retired with union pension. The name unrecorded worker who lost fingers adapted, found employment despite disability. Their labor supported not just structure, but national identity. The house will require renovation again. In another 50 years, the 1952 systems will age beyond service life. Future generations will confront the same choice: pay to preserve or lose the symbol. Americans have always chosen preservation. But stand in the sub-basement and look at the infrastructure. Consider the complexity, the constant maintenance required. Permanence is illusion. Endurance is choice. The Truman renovation provides structural stability, but the White House continues evolving. Each president adds modifications, reflecting changing needs and technologies. The 1960s bring television. The house must accommodate broadcast equipment, camera crews, lighting. The East Room becomes a frequent press conference venue. Public appearances now reach millions, instantly. Jacqueline Kennedy undertakes historically conscious redecoration in 1961-1963, establishing the White House as a museum of American history. She creates the White House Historical Association, raises private funds, acquires authentic period furniture. Her work transforms how Americans view the house, not just the president's home, but the nation's home. Security needs expand continuously. After Kennedy's assassination in 1963, Secret Service protection intensifies. More agents, more surveillance, more restricted access. Pennsylvania Avenue in front of the White House closes permanently to vehicle traffic after the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. The block-long street becomes pedestrian plaza. The house gains security infrastructure invisible to tourists. Reinforced barriers, surveillance systems, underground bunker expansions, vehicle checkpoints at widened perimeter. The staff now exceeds 100 full-time residence employees, again separate from West Wing political staff. Chief usher, executive chef, pastry chef, multiple sous chefs, housekeeping staff, maintenance workers, electricians, plumbers, florists, groundskeepers. Modern technology integration requires constant updating, computer networks, secure communications, advanced telecommunications. The house built in 1800 must function as 21st century command center. Annual operating costs by 2000s exceed $15 million yearly for residence operations, separate from security and staff salaries, which are budgeted separately. This covers utilities, maintenance, food, state dinners, household supplies. The house also generates revenue indirectly. Over 1 million tourists visit annually. The White House Historical Association sells guidebooks, merchandise, profits support preservation. But the house will never be self-sustaining. It exists through continuous congressional appropriations. Modern presidents confront the same tension their predecessors faced: how to maintain a symbolic residence that costs more yearly than most Americans earn in a lifetime, how to justify elaborate state dinners during economic hardship, how to preserve history while accommodating modern security needs. The questions persist because they are unanswerable. The house exists in perpetual tension between past and present, symbol and function, public access, and security necessity. Stand in the state dining room during a formal dinner. Crystal chandeliers blaze. Fine china reflects candlelight. The president hosts foreign dignitaries. Photographers capture the moment. Now step through the service door. Behind the scenes, the machine operates. In the basement kitchen, the executive chef and staff prepare meals for 140 guests, multiple courses plated with precision. Timing synchronized down to minutes. The kitchen operates with Michelin star pressure but serves diplomatic rather than culinary purposes. Upstairs, housekeeping staff ensure every surface gleams. The house contains 132 rooms, 35 bathrooms, 28 fireplaces, 412 doors, 147 windows. All require daily maintenance. The ground staff maintains 18 acres. Gardens, lawns, trees, the famous rose garden. Work continues regardless of weather, season, presidential schedule. These workers are federal employees, but their jobs transcend typical government service. They serve whoever occupies the office, Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal. The House functions regardless of politics. Many staff work at the White House for decades. Some serve under 5, 6, 7 presidents. They witness history intimately, not the public moments, but the private stress, the family tensions, the 2 a.m. crises. Their names rarely appear in history books. Roland Meunier served as executive pastry chef 1979-2004 under 5 presidents. James Jeffries worked as maitre d' for over 20 years. These long-serving staff provide continuity across administrations. The work is demanding. Long hours, high pressure, intense scrutiny. Everything must be perfect always. A single mistake during a state dinner becomes international incident. The pressure falls on workers earning federal wages. Comfortable but not lavish. Why do they stay? The honor of service. The proximity to history. The knowledge that their work, though hidden, matters. When the president signs a treaty, someone prepared the room. When dignitaries visit, someone arranged flowers. When the public tours, someone polished floors. The White House functions because hundreds of people work invisibly to maintain the illusion of effortless grandeur. This pattern existed at the beginning. It exists today. It will continue as long as the house stands. 233 years since construction began. The house has been burned, gutted twice, continuously renovated. Almost nothing remains from 1800 except the outer stone walls, and even those have been cut, repaired, replaced in sections. Is this still the same house Washington selected, or a replica built on the same spot? The question matters because Americans invest the White House with mythic significance. We tell ourselves stories about continuity, permanence, historical connection. Every president walks the same halls Lincoln walked. But do they? The floors Lincoln walked were torn out in 1902. The walls he touched were gutted in 1950. The house is a ship of Theseus, each plank replaced until nothing original remains, yet we insist it's the same ship. Perhaps that's the point. The White House endures not through physical continuity, but through continuous investment, financial, symbolic, emotional. Each generation commits resources to maintain the illusion of permanence. The cost is real. Financially, billions of dollars across 2 centuries for construction, renovation, operation. In labor, countless workers, named and unnamed, who built, maintained, staffed the house. In lives, the deaths during construction, the injuries, the years of service. The cost is also philosophical. What does it mean for a democracy to maintain a mansion? How does a nation committed to equality justify palatial presidential housing? The White House embodies this contradiction. Republican simplicity expressed through architectural grandeur. Every president confronts this tension. Some embrace the symbolism. Others feel uncomfortable, constrained. But none can escape it. The house predates them, will outlast them. They are temporary occupants of permanent symbol, and the symbol requires maintenance, not just repair and renovation, but active preservation of meaning. The White House must continue representing American ideals, democracy, power, accessibility, even as those ideals shift and the House adapts. The White House today faces challenges its builders never imagined. Climate change brings more intense storms, flooding risks. The original swamp reasserts itself. Rising security threats require enhanced protection without destroying public access. Aging infrastructure needs continuous updating. The 1952 steel framework now shows corrosion. Engineers predict another major renovation within 20-30 years. Perhaps not total gutting, like 1902 or 1948, but extensive enough to cost hundreds of millions. The pattern continues. Periodic crisis, expensive rescue, temporary stability. Congress will debate the cost. Americans will question whether one residence deserves such investment. And ultimately, the decision will be the same as always. Spend the money, do the work, preserve the symbol. Because the White House is not just a house. It is a commitment to continuity. A declaration that some things transcend economics and politics. A visible manifestation of the nation's belief in its own permanence. Every nation needs such symbols. Palaces, monuments, sacred sites. Places that embody collective identity beyond individual lives. The White House serves this function for Americans. It must stand because its collapse would represent something more than architectural failure. But stand at what cost? That question remains unanswered. Or rather, answered continuously through ongoing appropriations, maintenance, service, sacrifice. The house George Washington selected on a swamp will require support forever. Each generation must choose to provide it. So far, every generation has. The house exists because people built it. It stands because people maintain it. It matters because people care. The beauty is real. The cost is real. The choice to continue is ours. Stand at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Look up at those white columns. Behind them, infrastructure, labor, investment, sacrifice, hidden systems that keep the symbol functioning. This is what the White House really costs. Not just money, vision, commitment, adaptation, and the humility to let great symbols live by learning to serve something larger than themselves. The gates still stand. The house still glows. Because we choose it every single day.